Hi guys and welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a quick video on how to DPS as a Retribution Paladin. This is actually my main class on Warcraft. I do play quite a lot of other roles because I'm a bit of an alt whore and I enjoy playing everything. But on the whole, I tend to do most of my raiding with this and I've put more hours into this than anything else. So I think I've got a general gist of how to play it now. I'm by no means an expert, so if you want proper in-depth explanations and things and hardcore stats, probably better going elsewhere. But if you're new to playing the class or considering leveling the class, or if of course you've literally just capped and want to know how to improve your game a little bit, you might get something out of this. But I'm by no means an expert. I just enjoy playing the game and enjoy playing the class. So before I waffle on too much, I'll just jump straight into the talents. Now, there are some on here you can swap in and out depending on personal preference, and it doesn't make too much of a difference, so that's alright. There are some that you kind of have to pick, though, to do any kind of decent damage at all. Now, the main one I can think of is the tier 100 talent. Crusade is the one you kind of need to pick all the time. They did nerf it recently, but it's still by far and away the best talent you can get. And it kind of feels like the class is still kind of built around this, because it's on a 2-minute cooldown, and it's kind of, if you use it properly, it's like our own heroism buff. As you can see, increases your damage and haste by 3% for blah, 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 so many seconds. Each holy power spent during Crusade increases damage and haste by an additional 3%, with a maximum of 15 stacks. So the idea is you wait until you've got 5 stacks of holy power, pop that. Probably then use Ashbringer to bring it up to, not Ashbringer, basically Ashbringer talent, Wake of Ashes, which gives you another 5 points, start bombing that, then start, it builds up really quick and it's easy to get to 15 stacks. And for that 30 seconds or so, you end up doing a mental amount of damage. And that's literally the only spike damage you can do really, because otherwise they're fairly constant. So yeah, that is your main talent, I'd say. The other talents on the tree, Divine Purpose, got a 20% chance of basically getting your next holy power spending ability free, which is okay. I have spec'd it. It just doesn't, I don't know, I think that kind of standardises the DPS a bit more, so we're not as spiky, but it's just a bit, it's not as good as it could be. And Holy Wrath, I don't know, I think that's more of a PvP talent, I don't really understand. Basically, you have to be at low health to use it. Well, to actually get any use out of it. And then if you are and then you use it, it does a ton of damage. But if you're not at low health, it doesn't. It's a bit gimmicky and the cooldown's a bit slower. It's just, you don't really want to run around in a PvE environment at low health for very long. And to be honest, half the time it's out of your control anyway, because some healers will heal you immediately, so you can't really use that reliably. Other ones, tier 90. Cavalier, basically it's in combat. You can use that, summons your mount for 3 seconds, it just means you can cast it twice. It's good for movement, running around, but you get one cast anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Judgment of Light is good for soloing, or if you're in a small party, I found. Because it'll basically put a debuff on it, next 40 attacks will heal the attacker for 5,400 odd. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it just keeps them topped up. I found that more useful actually when me and my brother have been 2-man in some instances, and literally any little bonus you can get helps. But on the whole, I use Divine Intervention. Basically, if you're about to get killed, that'll pop, it'll save your ass and bring you back to 20% health. And that does pop quite often, and it's dragged me out of so many situations. It's always a permanent pick for me. Next tier, Word of Glory, basically AoE heal. This is alright. Eye for an eye. That would be good if you're actually face tanking things, or again another PvP talent maybe. Makes you do so much physical damage as like a counter attack. But really in normal PvE encounters like dungeons and raids, you shouldn't really be getting hit that much, so it doesn't really matter. And then Justicar's Vengeance. What it is, you hit for an amount of damage. It's got a lot. It needs a lot of holy power to work. And the only time I ever really use this is either A, if I'm very, very desperate and about to go down, or B, if the target is stunned. It's the only self-heal, really, without stopping to actually cast that crappy heal that you can get during combat. So if a raid fight's been going on too long and you're on a shitty amount of health, just use that a couple of times. It'll only give you, like, say, 200 odd thousand health, but if the target's stunned, it will double that. So if you hit it when the target's stunned, you'll get like 500,000 health, which can save your ass. So it's kind of worth it. Next tier, at the moment, I think Divine Hammer is probably working out better. I think even in... Because I thought originally, for AoE situations, it's amazing beyond belief. Use it all the bleeding time. But I think that even in a single target environment, it seems to be doing a little bit more damage. It's just fire and forget. You just use it, spins around for 10 seconds, you don't have to think about it, you can focus on everything else. So it takes that off your hands a little bit. Blade of Wrath, auto attacks have a chance to reset the cooldown of Blade of Justice. It's okay, it does proc quite a lot actually, so you can get some DPS out of it. Virtue's Blade. Again, if you've got high crit rate, that might work and be a bit better, but for me, it's just a bit... Divine Hammer, I'd say, to be honest. Next tier, again, is completely up to you. Doesn't make really any difference in DPS wise. This one, Blinding Light, basically AoE, does a little bit of damage, 77,000 damage, and stuns all targets around you for a few seconds. Well, disorients them. Obviously, it won't really work in raids, but in instances, it's just an easy, quick one button press. If there's a shitload of mobs around you, it'll do a ton of damage spread out over it. So that's actually handy to have just to pop like that. You might not even stun them, but it's just free damage for nothing because it's instant cast. Repentance, literally only crowd control ability we've got. To be honest, I've never really used it, so it probably is good in some situations, but it's just I've never found a use for it. Fists of Justice, I'm starting to think that might actually be worth speccing at some point, because I am finding myself using Hammer of Justice more and more these days. I've noticed some ads in raids are actually susceptible to Hammer of Justice, so it's handy just to stun them to obviously stop them bloody casting or whatever. But so I'm mulling about that one. The next one is a little more tricky. This is the only one I keep swapping a lot. You've either got Greater Judgment, which blah blah blah, hits 2 additional targets, and always deals a critical strike against targets above 50% health. So straight out of combat, straight as soon as the combat starts, lob that, instant crit straight away. So at least you get your damage going immediately. So that is one I have used quite a lot, and I did quite like it. It's just you don't have to think about it too much. Zeal is another one. People always seem to argue between this and Fires of Justice. This is kind of like an AoE swipe that we've got. Strikes targets, blah 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 blah. And it will also jump and hit the next couple of targets. Obviously with less damage each time. So in an AoE situation, or even when it's just a couple of mobs, I think it probably does pass a little bit higher and does do a little bit more damage. Single target, it may drop off a little bit. I'm not so sure on that one, I'm still testing it. But that's a good talent to take if you want to. The next one, Fires of Justice. That one, I'm trying to remember. It just means you can basically use Crusader Strike more often. Which doesn't sound that great, but in the rotations it kind of levels it off a bit, makes it a bit easier. So it could be worth taking. Yeah, I'm not sure. Any of those 3 I think you can try, and you're not going to go too far wrong. Last one. Increases damage done by 10 versus 10%. That's a good basic standard damage buff. But to be honest, I don't really ever use that one. The other 2, however, Consecration, basically it does damage over time to group situations. Also, single target, you can fire and forget. Put it down, it'll do damage, you don't have to worry about it. Definitely in AoE situations that does a lot better and gets you right to the top of the meters if you know what you're doing with it. Execution Sentence is a good fire and forget one against raid bosses really. 16, well nearly 17 second cooldown on it, but if you use that along with Judgment. It'll hit for even more when it finally does come down. So I think single target, I think that probably does do more damage overall. But on the whole, I tend to use Consecration just because it's easier. Right, I'll shut up now and try and do some damage to show you what I mean. Basically, first off, you want to be using Judgment straight away. So it bounces around. Then use Divine Hammer so it's spinning. We keep spamming that. Let's see how far we can get. What's it? God, I've not played this for a couple of days now. So basically, it's about just constantly keeping up Divine Hammer, so it's constantly doing damage. Use Judgment every time you can, along with Templar's Verdict, because it increases the damage, basically, Judgment of any of your holy spenders. So if you're going to be using it, it doesn't make any difference to these two, but it does to Templar's Verdict. So every time, always make sure you've got that up. I've just screwed that rotation up, but never mind. Use that one. Wake of Ashes will automatically only ever use this when you're down to 0 holy power, because as soon as you use it, whack, straight away. And it also does damage over time when you specs properly and everything. And is that Justicar's Vengeance, someone that heals you. So on the whole, if I back off, I'll try and demonstrate how Crusade works. Yes, I know my DPS isn't fantastic. Right, so in a normal situation you'd basically go Judgment, Divine Hammer, Consecration, try and whack out a few Zeals, maybe then use Crusade, keep spamming that as much as you can, Judgment, probably because AoE situation do that, always try and keep Divine Hammer and Consecration down, try and get the Holy Spend as high as you can. See what I mean about the rotation? It just speeds up, speeds up, speeds up, speeds up, and you end up with this buff up here which maxes out pretty easy. See what I mean? Kind of DPS you can manage if you want to. Wake of Ashes again. Anyway, it'll drop off a lot now because that's just gone. What you want to make sure you're doing as well, it's an easy mistake to make, never overcap your holy power, because obviously if you go over 5 you're not getting any points for that set for the sake of it. Yeah, it seems to level off around 400k DPS, doesn't it really now? So yeah, that it's a basic rotation for that really. As I say, you can easily swap out Execution Sentence instead, but I'm still mulling between them two. I'd say Divine Hammer definitely for now is the best stat you can get. Best talent even. Stat wise, I've only got one artifact. Oh, is it called legendaries these days? How's it got the bloody call? It doesn't really matter anyway. An orange. So yeah, main stats I think are supposed to be haste. I was trying to get a minimum of 20 and then try and start whacking it into something else. Crit, I think just try and get as high as you can. Mastery, I'm not really sure. It increases the damage of bits and bobs. I think I need to get that up though, because that's really quite low. But yeah, on the whole, I think it's a fairly easy, straightforward rotation to do. And it's a good class for soloing, because they did nerf the crap out of our blessings, but we do now have, you can use this and her Great Blessing of Kings, which basically is just 1% of your health and mana every 10 seconds and a basic shield. All it means is you can only put one on at any one time to anyone. Anytime you go in a raid, just whack that on your healer. Won't make a huge bit of difference, but they'll be happy for the mana. But yeah, Blessings has got completely nerfed beyond belief. Shield of Vengeance is always a good idea. Just pop that whenever it comes up, because if you're getting hit, it'll just absorb damage and deal damage back. And then we've got a lot of get out of free jail cards. Get out of jail free, no, get out of free jail, you know what I mean. But yeah, I'd say it's a good all-round class to do all sorts on it, and also you get to use big two-handed weapons and transmog the living shit out of everything and just have fun. Quick look at the Ashbringer. These are the talents, not far off capping it now. The main one you want to go for though, if you do get it, straight away come down here, across here, grab that one. Best talent by a million miles on here. And then the trouble is, what most people tend to do, spec immediately to there, wait until they've got so many points down here, blah 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 blah, and then respec the weapon and completely avoid these talents and just go the long way around. But always go for that one first and then rejig it later on. It's just people avoid these because, okay, gets you out of a stun after 2 seconds, handy. Blessing of protection, cooldown, great, fine, whatever. Has no direct impact on DPS or anything, so you want to be coming down here to get the better damage talent straight away. The other ones on here aren't too bad. They're okay, they're not life-shatteringly amazing or anything. But yeah, definitely Ashes to Ashes is your main talent you want to be grabbing. Basically means that does a damage over time, and you'll be using it all the bloody time. Every time it comes off cooldown, use Wake of Ashes, just because it does a shit ton of damage and it's free. Anyway, hope that's been informative for you guys. If you've got any tips or anything, please give me a shout. I'll be doing more videos on everything else soon. And also, I'm going to be hopefully doing some cast animations for every single class and race there are, so you can have a nosy and see if you actually like the way they work and everything. Of course, if you don't like the way your character fights, there's no bleeding point, is there really? So, thank you very much for watching, guys. I shall see you on the next one.